Deck falling. Yeah, Daniel Weiser versus Matthew Weiss. The Weiss battle. Big Rakdos versus Esper Legends.
I love it. Standard it will be. Okay, so let me get my...
Yeah, let's get the deck list up. Not that surprised. I mean, like I said, no matter what, when you're talking about the other formats, there can be some really swingy matchups, but when you get down to Standard, there's a pile of mid-range decks right now. So a lot of players, I would expect us to watch a lot of Standard over these next few rounds, because it's just going to be the opportunity to get in the trenches and have a sloggy, fair matchup.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit as these players get started. Zayator's Proving Ground, Rafine's Tower Triumph for each player. Talk a little bit about kind of the big Rakdos. Rakdos midrange have been a staple in Standard for a while now. This big Rakdos deck goes even bigger though. We're talking like Atali, Primal Conqueror, Trumpeting Carnosaur. There's even like some mana rocks in the form of like Iron Crag. Really only like one or two of those usually, if you can even really call it a mana rock. And then like, you know, sometimes you see like big scores. We see 4 of them in Daniel Weiser's deck, just a second land passing the turn. No like Blood Tithe Harvester stuff like that. We're actually just going big. That is what we're doing.
Right. This was something that was, I mean, there was some of this at the Standard Pro Tour, but it's just the big score into Atali, into Breach, into whatever. It's just so powerful. And it's really, that's what you're trying to do, is just completely demolish what the other person is trying to do. However, counter magic can obviously play back against that big score. Walking into a counter is not a fun time.
Yeah, 3 of those in Matthew Weiss's deck in the form of Make Disappear. So those, I expect those to be quite good, as the Subterranean Schooner going to be in play alongside Shieldred. Going to pick off the Shieldred, which I believe prevents this creature from exploring.
Yeah.
So go for the throw. Going to take care of the Shieldred. Going to have 3 damage coming across anyway as we go back to Daniel Weiser. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about Standard being a mid-range soup, it's not that surprising to see someone like Daniel make a pretty good call, in my opinion, and play a mid-range deck that goes over the top of the other mid-range decks. If that's what this format's about, that's what he's done a great job doing, is Cavern of Souls likely naming something that casts Shieldred, going to be able to get out from underneath those counter spells pretty well.
Yeah, so Shieldred coming to play, and Shieldred against this Esper Legends deck is such a beating. I mean, it's not in play right now, but Rafine's attack trigger is so powerful, and you really can't do that in the face of Shieldred without taking just a ton of damage.
Yeah, being able to shut down Rafine is a lot of, I think, what the mid-range matchup's going to be about against the Legends deck. We see some Esper mid-range stuff that gravitates sometimes towards Gix and stuff like that. Legends has been more of a fixture for Standard as time has gone on, and this is a little bit more of a traditional look. We're talking about like Dinnick, you know, Lauren, Lord Skitter, all that kind of stuff. Still supporting the 4 copies of Deep Cavern Bat, but we've seen some decks kind of move away from the Legend-specific builds. Matthew Weiss choosing to stick with it. 4 copies of Rafine going to look good, as Lauren's going to come into play and get to work crewing this Subterranean Schooner. Come across for 3. Lauren gets to explore.
Well, we'll see if it does this time. Yeah, and Daniel, I mean, only...
Maybe not. Cut down. No explorers for you.
Daniel with missing some land drops, only 4 land. I mean, like 4 land seems like a decent amount, but this deck, like Drake was saying, this deck goes very high on the curve. So
Shieldred, Make Disappear, and a land the leftovers from Matthew Weiss. I mean, a good set of cards. Shieldred being able to, you know, obviously crew, and like you said, I mean, just kind of one of the trump cards, I think, in these mid-range matches in general. I mean, people talk about Shieldred, and the cards like whatever. It's been like $100 in Standard forever. Every deck needs like 3 to 4 of them, and is going to be a defining feature of these Standard matchups, including this one. As we'll see if Daniel found a land. A lot of spells left in hand to cut down among others, but a 5th land. I mean, we're talking about a big Rakdos. We need mana, and a lot of it. 4 lands is not going to be enough to get the job done.
And yet, at the moment, able to, you know, not be under a big threat, able to not be punished, and
it's kind of a question: should you be doing anything at all? Like, if Shieldred's allowed to start exploring, that could be problematic. And like, you know, this Make Disappear that Matthew Weiss kind of is representing with these 2 Rafine's Towers that are up, and is also just the best card for him to have right here. could start to destroy you if you start trying to play stuff. And so, yeah, I really love the discipline from Daniel here. A lot of cards in hand. We've seen this before. He just starts like threatening to move to discard, missing land drops, and finds a way to win anyway. This is part of the secret, I guess, is just miss your land drops and just have all great spells. Why would you mulligan when you have all these good spells?
Okay, so let's
A wedding announcement, was that the draw?
Yeah,
That's
wedding announcement. Shieldred, make disappear.
Is leading on the wedding announcement. Not going to see any counter spells from the big Rakdos deck. Probably, I have to imagine this is one of the best cards you can really have here. Does a great job slogging through these 1-for-1s, and is going to make creatures that can crew the schooner every turn, basically. But big score.
Yeah,
the card.
This hurts, and this is something. It's conceivable Daniel was holding this, not wanting to cast it into a potential make disappear. Now he just can't wait anymore, and it is going to find one.
Yeah, and that's a good makes disappear too. It gets burned down the house with it, just on the cast recording, discarding a card. And over to Daniel we go. Big score didn't work. Shields are down though for Weiss. Not going to have another make disappear with only one mana, only one card in hand as well. We'll see if Daniel can capitalize. Cut down on the token is not something you're excited about, but once again, he's done such a good job from preventing the schooner from being able to explore with creatures and allow Matthew to start controlling his draw, maybe drawing extra lands, and just begin to get ahead. It's 4 mana pulled aside very quickly for Shieldred.
Yeah, well, without the make disappear to hold up mana for now, and this Matthew could wait another turn for another token to be able to try and crew the schooner, but he's just going to go for it now with Shieldred, and Shieldred's going to die also. So the schooner has attacked 3 times, and there's been no explore triggers yet.
Has not explored once. I mean, but the damage is still being done, right? Like you're talking about, he's done a good job controlling the explorers. At some point, Daniel's going to have to get something on the board, or this schooner is just going to go the distance with damage. And with Daniel at 11, I mean, he's done a good job using his life total as a resource, picking off all the cards that matter. Cannot find a 5th land. No. And back to Matthew we go, who seems to be flooding out, but doesn't matter as long as they got the schooner as it gets fired up thanks to the token from wedding announcement. All right, we're doing this again. I love the posture change there. Can I explore, please? And we can. Darkslick Shore is going to go to hand. No counter, but 3 more damage rolling across. And finally, the schooner gets to draw a card. I think the window is closing for Daniel Weiser soon, especially with a second copy of wedding announcement being added to the board here.
All right, so what is Daniel even hoping for now? I mean, this is
another big score.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of that last turn that you if you had another one, you would fire it off to try and get into the deeper part of the curve, but it's just not there for him. And I mean, we've kind of seen. I mean, I guess a Shielder would be good.
I think he's had a Shieldred for a while, been holding up mana though. Okay. Not sure clear. Oh, it's Trumpeting Carnosaur is what we're doing with this turn. Gonna pick off one of the tokens. Yeah, one of the tokens. And back to Daniel we go. We'll see if he even finds a land. Burn Down the House has represented the potential to clear the board for a while now. Discarded one early to a big score. Finds Restless, I believe, Vents.
All right.
Restless Vents, yes. Restless Vents. And back over to Matthew Weiss we go. Cruise, Subterranean Schooner, an attack for 4. Am I allowed to explore? Says Matthew Weiss. Yeah, we have one that can attack, one that's crewed, and these are bigger now. Would be an attack for 6 if it happens.
Go for the throat. Wow. Really showing its vulnerability here, not being able to kill artifacts. Jeez.
Yeah. I'm sure Daniel would have loved to kill this schooner and has not been able to. Doing kind of a Smuggler's Copter impression, I'd say.
I mean, it's up 2 cards now. It found it. I mean, even though the first several draws were kind of thwarted by removal, now has found 2 lands off the top. He got to avoid. I mean, he's floating out like you're saying, but he's got to avoid 2 draws. And the Plaza of Heroes, while not currently relevant, certainly can be at some point in the game.
Yeah, I mean, if we find another legend in the Esper Legends deck, we're there, and Daniel just doesn't even find a 5th land, and that's going to do it. So, big Rakdos, supposed to go big, not able to there in game number 1. Matthew Weiss able to pick up a pretty convincing victory off of the back of that Subterranean Schooner. An impressive showing from that card. Only 2 copies in his deck. Looked insane there.
Yeah, it looked good, and the wedding announcements were good, and we could have predicted that. And Daniel just unable to get much going. So, game 1 in the battle of the Weiss named people goes to Matthew. Let's go ahead and put some deck lists up for you to see entirely what these players are working with. Remember, this match, this is not an elimination match. You have to lose. This is double elimination. So even the loser here is still in the event. And we can see here the big Rakdos deck, as it is named. Plenty of removal, plenty of big stuff. Big Score, is that a card you board out here just because it's so vulnerable to counter magic? I mean, it seems
yeah, maybe.
possible.
The Esper Legends deck has a lot of counter magic they can bring in typically. So, cutting down on some of that and maybe making your deck a little bit lower to the ground. These duresses might be appealing if you're scared of things like the Schooner, things like the wedding announcements, or just the counter spells. I think reaching for the discard spells makes a lot of sense. Getting lower to the ground, not getting destroyed by the counter spells, like you kind of called out. I think those are going to be the biggest parts of the equation for me. Though individual removal spells, you can take them or leave them. I don't think they look that good. And the Alkazat's, another way to kind of get a little bit lower to the ground if you want to trim some of the bigger stuff. But in general, I think the duresses are the ones you really want to highlight for this matchup. Being able, even though there's a lot of creatures in this Legends deck, the spells are a big part of what makes this kind of tough for Daniel in some spots because of all the counter magic that is there in the main deck and can come in.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and look at Matthew Weiss's Esper Legends mid-range deck. You see here with the I saw that Deep Cavern Bat actually in standard results is the most played card in the format right now, which is kind of wild.
Power Crep Mesmeric Fiend.
yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's good. You're right. Mesmeric Fiend boosted into the air. And lots of we see the virtues in both decks here. Single copy of Virtue of Persistence in Daniel's deck and 4 Virtue of Loyalty in Matthew's deck. And it really, having flash creatures obviously lets you combine that very well with counter magic and be much more effective because your opponent doesn't know you're just holding up counter magic all the time because you have creatures. You could be holding up stuff for any sort of reason. As far as sideboarding here goes for Matthew Weiss, counter magic is fairly good against when your opponent's spending 5, 6, 7 mana on their threats. And there's Disdainful Strokes, there's Negates, there are duresses on this side also, and there's Tishana's Tidebinder, one of the main one in the board. Can that find
Atali is probably the biggest target there. I mean, just being able to shut that thing. I mean, it's still big. Obviously you can hit like Trumpeting Carnosaur. Shield Drids are great targets as well. I mean, if you're just talking about the stifle effect, though, that is the strongest ETB going on. I have to imagine, like I said, just holding up mana is going to be a big part of Matthew Weiss's plan, I think. And the fact it's a flash threat on its own is probably good enough to warrant bringing that one in, and much less how good it actually is against the rest of the deck, which I think is actually quite good. And then you get to choose your counter spells, right? You got Disdainful Strokes. You can choose Negates if you want, although I do think those are a little bit worse. You could do like Duresses if you're concerned about a pile of spells, but I don't know really that's where you want to be. Because like I said, I think in large part, you already have the Deep Cavern Bats to kind of get a look at the opponent's hand. You got a lot of counter magic to cover what the opponent's got going on. You can kind of turn into, I hate to say it, kind of like a tempo deck in this matchup, knowing that Daniel Weiser's the bigger deck, and you can just kind of get underneath them. And kind of like what we did there, even with something as innocuous as like a Subterranean Schooner, you can just kind of get under Daniel Weiser if he stumbles a little bit, and counter spells really add to that ability to make your opponent stumble.
No, as we head back down the table for game 2 here, this Esper Legends deck, I mean, it's not, I feel like on paper, the most impressive thing in the world, but it just works. And we didn't even see kind of the namesake cards that time. We didn't see Rafine, and it just works.
I'm not even confident Rafine, like, it's one of the best cards in your deck, but I'm not even confident it's 100% the best card in this matchup. Because, like, some of these sticky threats, I mean, we saw Wedding Announcement. That card looked incredible. Obviously, a lot of things are going to look great when Daniel Weiser's just stumbling, can't play a 5th land. But I would imagine some of these cards that kind of just snowball on their own, thinking of like Lord Skitters, Wedding Announcements, things like that, are actually going to be secretly some of your best cards in the matchup. If you can back up, if you can untap with some of that and just put some counter magic up, like, you've got to feel in a pretty good spot against this big Rakdos deck, which is pretty unlikely, especially pre-board, to double spell you in a turn, and even more so when they're not hitting land drops.
No, their double spelling is going to consist of like Atali hitting something else.
Cast your spell and my spell. There's your double spell.
Trumpeting Carnosaur, Discover. That's their version of double spelling. But okay, we're underway. Looked like Daniel Weiser kept immediately. Matthew Weiss thought about his hand for quite a while before choosing to keep as well.
Let's see why. We got a duress pile of lands, Rafine, Shieldred, and a Tishana's Tidebinder. It's a lot of lands. 2, 3, 4 lands. 4 lands, 3 creatures. I think this duress misses.
Yeah. Well,
that's brutal.
Yeah, it is. That's tough. That's a tough way for Daniel to start, and probably could have gone Swamp Dress in turn 1. There's nothing to worry about there. I'll just wait until turn 2 and misses anyway.
I wonder if part of the consideration for keeping this hand is like, yeah, these spells are fine, but most importantly, I think Duress is the best card Daniel can bring in against me, and it blanks it. I wonder if that's like this exact interaction is a big part of the consideration for Matthew Weiss keeping this hand.
No, that would be reasonable. This is dodging Duress. I mean, they're all coming in. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, this sounds great. This getting on the board is what's going to matter for Matthew. These creatures are
Cavern Bat, the draw, another creature and a great one to have right now. And
yeah.
Bam, there it is. Joe's like, I didn't see that one. What gives? All right, fine. 2 Brotherhood's Ends, a Go for the Throat, and a card that I could never guess. It is a black blob in Takanuma, of course. I probably a land. Some of those, looks like a rare of some kind. Haunted Ridge is my guess. But
that sounds reasonable. Yeah. So if it's removal either way.
Yeah, either way. I think you want to take the Go for the Throat and make him use a more expensive removal spell.
Yeah, as long as you don't have a follow-up for next turn that you would.
True. We know about a Tidebinder and a Shieldred, but so does Daniel Weiser. So like the information's face up for both players as far as what each player's working with.
Mm-hmm.
So what matters? The Brothers at the Ends can't kill the Shieldred or the Rafine, and maybe that's take one of them, but there's still just another one you can use. Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and take Go for the Throat, make him use 3 mana to kill this bat if that's something he wants to do, which I imagine he will. Once the Rafine or whatever comes down, you need to Go for the Throat that. So I think we're going to see a Brothers at the End here, and we sure will. That's going to take care of the bat, give the Go for the Throat back, and honestly, not a bad exchange for Matthew Weiss.
No, I mean, trades up on mana. If he can continue developing here, should be fine. Although, his next play is likely to get picked off by the Go for the Throat.
But there's only one Go for the Throat, and there's a Rafine and a Shieldred. Those are 2 cards that do not die to Brothers at the End, that do die to Go for the Throat. And actually, Denik.
Yeah, okay.
Saying it correct. 2/3 lifelink cards. The graveyard cannot be the target spells or abilities. Has Disturb. Nice little 2-for-1 available. And something that does die to Brotherhood's End and Go for the Throat. Don't really want to use either of those on it, to be honest.
No, you certainly don't. And but the Rafine is going to make it irritating. Daniel's target is going to be, would want to be the Rafine. So maybe if you're Matthew, you follow up with Shieldred and then Rafine the following turn, and then you get to attack and connive.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of just a game of what can get my Rafine to live.
Yeah.
As we move over to Matthew Weiss's turn, we know he's got lands for days. He's not going to miss one of those. Deep Cavern Bat the draw. Okay. So now we could do like Rafine Bat on turn 5 if we do want to just deploy Shieldred into the Go for the Throat mana, which looks not that bad. Mm-hmm. Although Daniel is hitting all of his land drops and is eventually going to start playing some very impactful 6-7 mana spells. So you are under some pressure to get this game over with. And we're going to go ahead and bat now. Take a look. This one probably has to hit the second Brotherhood's End though, because now there's two things.
Yeah, no, you're right. It does. And now this means Matthew doesn't have another play for this turn, which is not thrilling, I would say.
You do get a little bit of a bluff. There's been 2 or 3 draw steps. I think maybe 1 unknown card. Yeah. So you can kind of bluff some counter spells if you want to run it, but it's not that realistic. And I don't think it changes the way Daniel Weiser is going to play either way. But yeah, for the most part, just using your 2 mana spell with your 4 mana doesn't feel great, but it does kind of put Daniel under the gun as far as how he wants to use this Go for the Throat. Trumpeting Carnosaur was the pickup. We're a land short of that right now from what we see. Got 4 lands of play, Takanuma in hand. Not that unrealistic to find a land in 2 steps. And also functions as a removal spell. If we want to pick off the bat and take that direction, just kill all the creatures and get into top deck mode.
This is... Yeah, I don't blame Matthew from taking a moment here to ponder this.
I think it still just has to be the end, though. You can't let him get a 2-for-1, right?
Right. No, I don't
it's not that much of a 2-for-1 if Denik flips.
I mean, if you take Go for the Throat, then Daniel doesn't really get to use his mana for the turn, but I don't think that's a very much of an advantage. Because if you take...
Yeah, I mean, untaps and Brotherhood's Ends and
so
get all your mana.
Right. I mean, he doesn't use his mana. You lose a card. That's not a good deal either.
Yeah, I see Daniel kind of acknowledging, that's basically what you have to take. Doing one more check. We do know about... I mean, I think Daniel knows about a lot of these cards. I think it's 1 unknown, and it's like Tidebinder, Shieldred, and Rafine, the same cards he was working with from the very beginning. And a big thing here for Matthew Weiss. Like I said, I can't blame him. I do think the Brotherhood's End is where he's going to have to land. But maybe the answer is not. I mean, you want him to use the go for the throat, but I don't think there's a way to force that with the trumpeting Carnosaur.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah, that would be the reason to play the Shieldred. So okay, he's going to do that. Attack through for a 4 life total swing, and then
we'll see if Daniel wants to do any go for the throat Carnosaur action. He might just want to not act. Like the pressure's not that high yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't hate this at all. Just hold all of your stuff and just see what comes. Like we're getting into the territory where there's just you can start playing bigger stuff. You're not actually under enough pressure that the cards in play are going to be better than whatever you're going to play in 1 or 2 turns. Just hold your stuff and wait for the scary cards that you know are there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Daniel knows what this go for the throat wants to kill, and it's not the creatures on the board. So Matthew trying to bait Daniel into doing that, and Daniel says no. Okay, I'll play the Takanuma. And
gotta play that one. Definitely hit it. We found our 5th land this game, so we're already looking better.
Mm-hmm. And if you can find one more, then
wedding announcement, the draw. I think that's a huge draw here with Brotherhood. It would incentivize the Brotherhood's end to be cast, which would incentivize a removal spell on the bat, which I think is actually a great exchange for Matthew.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, this will pick up a card. Yeah, this is very nice for Matthew. You're right about that. So he'll, by playing a post-combat.
Well, I mean, he could still hold up, man. There's a lot of options here. I think this turn's really tough. I do like the wedding announcement the most, but there's an argument to like Tidebinder if you think that Weiser's going to find a land. There's an argument to like Shieldred if you just want to put additional pressure on. But I think all these things are mostly worse than wedding announcement, which is going to go ahead and get a counter, get a card. We attacked with 2 things. And now Daniel has to decide if he wants. Oh, to make disappear was picked up.
Oh, geez.
That is such a good draw. What a series of draws from Matthews. Here's the Carnosaur. No, thank you, says Matthew Weiss. And Weiser's just like, yeah, I mean, fair enough. There's make disappear. Catalyst, you pay 2. Got him.
Yeah, now.
Wow. And another bat picked up. Jeez, runners.
So Rafine, with double. I mean, he was going to draw into the good anyway here now with 2 connive triggers.
2 connives. I mean,
or 1 connive trigger for X for 2.
Sure. And you can start to slap that on things, that aren't going to die to the Brotherhood's end, and things are just getting really, really rough for Daniel Weiser. Brutal sequence here from Matthew, but honestly, kind of the way Matthew Weiss drew it up. If you're going to keep a hand of lands and some creatures to blank duresses, this is about as good as it gets. Draw your bloody announcements and your make disappears right on time. Have your creatures just start to go to work and make the removal spells awkward. Awesome play from Matthew Weiss and really paid off for the keep. I like this a lot. Thinking about what to discard. Another wedding announcement, bat, and Tidebinder among the mix of caps, which would imply discarding the Shieldred, which I certainly don't hate. Shieldred and Deserted Beach.
That's expensive. He's
he
doesn't need expensive threats right now. He's doing well as it is. Yeah, okay. Here's the bat.
You go for the throat and a land. All right. Daniel Weiss is saying, all right, can I get some top of the deck action? What can I get? Oh, yeah. The wedding announcement, he announced that we're speeding through things. And what did Weiser pick up? Didn't get a great look.
I mean, a land and a 7-drop. Atali would be good.
Atali would be great. Burn down the house would also be pretty good.
Oh, yeah,
kill all the creatures. There's some good ones.
And there's a lot of
doing a lot of
garbage.
thinking.
I mean, a targeted removal spell. Okay.
That's what it is. Go for the throw.
Yeah. Ew, that doesn't.
Kills the other bat, which gives you your other go for the throat back, but you're killing the worst creatures on the board.
All right. And now
good.
He plays the lands. Yeah, I know. Now he has to go for the throats. Now he can kill.
Oh, boy. And Plaza picked up, which can protect the Rafine.
Yeah.
Oy, oy, oy. I mean, we're in it. I mean, Daniel still has some really powerful. I mean, big Rakdos. We still got some powerful draws. Not out of it, but still definitely a tough spot. As here comes Rafine and Dennick. Pre-combat. Going to go ahead and pick off the Dennick with the go for the throat. Love this. Just protect your life total and try to shut down some of the action Matthew's got going on here. Don't see any counter spells, but maybe you can use Plaza. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, defend that. Push. Let's see which creature. One you can put one. If you have 2 non-lands to discard, you can put one of the creatures outside the range of burn down the house.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, I don't even know that you want to discard these spells. You might just be fighting against burn down the house as it is. Yeah. You just drawing all these cards. It's all land among the mix.
You're picking up another card from the wedding announcement at the end of the turn as well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is just a tough sequence for Weiser, and he drew okay. I mean, a targeted Roosevelt at the top of the deck, not a bad draw, but still, this Rafine able to start to clock in and go to work after all the slog and the kind of the exchange from the hand early on. I think I saw a Restless Anchorage in there as well. Curious who's going to hold on to that. Chooses not to.
Yeah, decision made though. Okay, I can already survive Brotherhood's end on both guys. They don't need to be more than that. So we'll just...
Yeah, if you have a target removal, whatever. I got a wedding announcement that's going to draw me a card and is going to flip, and then I have another one in hand already. I mean, in a great spot. Daniel drew a blank, and it looks like that's... Oh. He was untapping.
Yeah,
oh, my God.
All right, Matt. That's... we've all done that, right?
Yeah, well, he's just nothing in place. So when he picked up all his lands to untap, he's like, oh, you're scooping? That's fair. Nope, not scooping, says Daniel Weiser. Draw a card. That was going to be the third counter on the wedding announcement, so it's going to flip. I think we're going to get there pretty quick. Yeah, all we did was activate Plaza that turn, so, and the Plaza was untapped. This looks correct. Yeah, there's outs.
No, there are. Flipped. I mean, Atali can do crazy stuff.
All right, and then we can check the cards in hand, but I think everything that's in the graveyard is supposed to be there. And a draw step from Weiser. It's Atali!
Oh!
Okay! All right. This is how it starts.
No counter.
No, there's nothing. No recourse in Matthew's hand.
Iron
Crag defined, not great. Wedding announcement of his own, not bad. Okay. Rafine can still attack uncontested. Only 2 points of damage right now, though.
Yeah.
And we're going to make a 1-1. Okay, well, Atali showed up right on time. Wow, what a draw. And here's the Virtue of Loyalty. Going to go ahead, or whatever the spell version of that is. Ardenvale Fealty. Going to go ahead and make a 2-2, and then the Virtue is going to be on an adventure as we go over to Matthew Weiss. Shaking his head there. Yeah, what a draw for Daniel Weiser. We'll see how Matthew can respond.
Daniel might need another one, though. Another something. So he's got, 8 mana available? I think it costs 9 to transform Atali.
That's correct. Yeah, 9 in like a Phyrexian, so he needs 2 life.
Yeah. He's getting close to not having that either. I guess there's 3 attackers now. So if Matthew wants to go in with everything, the Rafine could actually grow and connect for, I guess, max 4. No, 5. Wedding announcements is flipped. It's wedding.
Right.
What's the backside? Wedding festivities. So it'd be for 5.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's attack for 5. It's an anthem either way. A glorious anthem.
Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3. All right. Matthew Weiss, with even after discarding, will have a very full grip here. So could actually probably grow. I assume the Rafine is what is targeted here, since it's the only one that's actually getting through. And was it all lands again? It looks like it was. So Matthew's going to keep the goods in hand and not pressure damage. Daniel's life total is dropping anyway. And are we awaiting blockers here? Or is there Matthew holding before? No, okay, here we go. Blockers looks like they're being declared now. And predictably done here. Atali will eat. Actually, well, okay, Dennick's going to survive. Atali's going to eat the Vigilance. Sorry, I lost track there a moment because I think I lost Drake. But the 2 counters went on the token for Matthew. And the board is not completely out of reach for Daniel's deck at this point, barring more counter magic. And I guess he does have his wedding announcements still ticking up also on his own side. Matthew at 36 life, 36 to 5. We'll call this an uphill battle for Daniel Weiser. And whatever the draw was for the turn, which I have not caught sight of, it wasn't an autoplay like the Italy last turn. Also, the board is more convoluted now. And Daniel's not actually, he's not there on the board still, even on the next turn. Barring a flash creature for Matthew, which is, now that I think about it, not unlikely. And Daniel does pass the turn, make a token at the end step. Another Virtue Knight comes in. And this isn't quite enough. Tasha's Tidebinder, end of turn. Perhaps there's a reason why that didn't eat the wedding announcements token. I'm not clear on what that might be, but maybe there is one. As we untap here for Matthew Weiss. Trying to finish this game off, trying to finish this match off and pick up the first of the 2 wins that these players will need to get through to Sunday morning. Four attackers is a lot of Rafine triggers. So if Daniel has nothing, then the Rafine itself could win the game with 4 spells discarded. But that is walking into some real danger if there's a removal spell. So he may not want to do that, and I wouldn't fault him for that at all, for not going for that. He's pressing a pretty significant advantage here anyway.
Can you hear me, Joe?
I can.
Heck yeah. Maybe I'm back.
All right.
Everything just crashed. I just had to change computers entirely, so apologies to all the viewers. Never seen that happen before. Not great. Gonna have to figure out what's going on. But either way, I should be back for at least the temporary moment.
I mean,
it looks like things got worse.
Most people don't have a backup computer sitting right next to them to switch into, so good on you being prepared.
Yeah, I guess. Prepare for disaster or whatever.
All right. So where we're at here is Matthew's on the attack here. He's conniving with Rafine for 4.
That seems hard to beat.
Yeah. And there's Daniel does have a card in hand that is unknown to both Matthew and viewers. Rafine with with 3 triggers, actually. I said 4, but it's actually only 3 because of wedding festivities. But they're going on the token again. So Matthew is giving Daniel no excuses to kill the Rafine. There's a removal spell, and Daniel has nothing, and that will do it. So
it's just such a tough slog.
Yeah, it was. It was really bad. And that Atali needed to be very strong, and it was not. I mean,
when you cast down the house the best in Iron Crag, probably among the weakest. Wedding announcement can at least put forth some blockers, maybe get some cards things really improve. But then you're looking at needing to draw out of it. That's not, even not realistic from there. So Atali, a great draw, came right on time, needed additional help, didn't have it. Matthew Weiss able to seal it, and I think what was maybe like a textbook execution for Matthew Weiss. I mean, really, really clean stuff, and about how we expected things could go with the right draw. Yeah,
this Esper Legends deck is just, it's able to kind of adapt to what your opponent is doing. You have expensive stuff, I have counters and flash stuff. If you have cheap stuff, I have aggro and I have blockers and lifelink, and you just kind of like roll with it and see how the games develops, how the matchups go, and it seems very strong. All right, backup match is about to start game 2. We're going to go there live, so no need for pre-recorded stuff here, even though it says time shift on the screen. We'll try and get that taken off. Theo Zhang versus Kyle Gonzalez. We have a Legends non-mirror, more or less.
4-color versus Esper, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, still sounds like a mirror to me, but take a look real quick.
One of the features of the 4-color decks without Kyle Gonzalez's deck list right in front of me at the moment is the Slugurk package, which can do a lot of work in longer games. Is that the right name? I think it's Slugurk.
That's Slugurk, the Overslime.
Yeah. Which can make channel lands even better than they already are in these Legends decks, as you can recur them. But Kyle is going to lose a card here on a mulligan, at least one.
I guess it makes Inti look very impressive too. I mean, when you're talking about, whatever, the Theo's deck, mostly Esper oriented, whereas not white cards, I think, at all in Kyle Gonzalez's Esper deck. We're reaching instead for like Relic of Legends Rona stuff that you don't really see present in Theo's deck at all. And so, yeah, a very different texture, despite both being Legends decks, looking to accomplish very different things. As here is kind of that face of this deck, I'd say, turn 2 Rona. Able with Relic, just you can start powering out a bunch of Legends and cheat on mana quite a bit. It'd be some impressive stuff.
All right. Kyle Gonzalez actually multi 5 this game and is down a game overall. So going to have some work to do here. And the bat's going to grab, looks like the only option.
Yeah, I didn't see a ton of options.
But those 2 lands can convert into other things. That's what Rona does. So
true as well.
Kyle not as maybe stuck as it would appear.
Can't get a great look. I think that's a Glissa Sunslayer that was exiled with Deep Cavern Bat. So getting that back could be worth quite a bit. One of the lands does have the discard bin. Kyle does play a 3rd land just to pass the turn back. No legend to untap Rona as the Bat's going to go to work and finally start getting some attacking done, gain some life, go for the throat on Rona. Going to be fired off right away. You're going to respond by using the fact we have a legend to cheat out the Sokenzen activation, which is going to make 2 1/1 colorless spirit tokens that get haste until end of turn. And we're looking to get those tokens right now, and then Rona's going to go ahead and hit the bin.
Haste until end of turn. Why can't they just keep haste? I mean, they should be able to block a Gingerbread. It's not fair. They have to.
It's more on a track. I have to imagine it's a tracking thing where it's like you can attack now, but you don't have to remember that these tokens have haste or whatever.
I guess.
Beat down for 1 is the Deep Cavern Bat, able to kind of win the race in the face of these, and Shieldred really good at winning races. Going to need a lot more than 2 1/1 colorless spirits to beat down that one. 2 damage for Kyle. Something like Urtai Resurrected, probably among the best draws here. Obviously, 3 copies go for the throat in the deck as well. Like draw any of those. Beseju's not any of those, and untapping with Shieldred is Theo, and things are not looking good for Kyle Gonzalez.
No, they sure are not. I mean, it's tough. You down 2 cards, your opponent curves out, has a solid hand of Bat into go for the throat into Shieldred, and you're left with not a lot to work with, and the clock ticking.
Pile of cards in hand, among which I think an Anoint with Affliction, just a removal spell ready to go. Onoara and Instep to go ahead and try to bounce that. Yeah, we can go ahead and activate this Plaza. That's something we want to do. Or we can Urtai to go ahead and counter that. You get another card for your trouble at least, but you take some damage. And yeah, this is just, I mean, this is so brutal.
All right.
Cut down, going to take care of the bat.
Nice that Kyle got to spend the mana before untapping here. And now with Glissa and looks like a Plaza of Heroes. Okay. I can hold the ground.
Yeah. That can do some amount of work.
Glissa is hard to get through.
Yeah, she's good in combat. First Strike and Death Touch, a potent combination of keywords. And Shieldred obviously doesn't really need to be attacking in order to get the work done, but it certainly helps. And there's the Anoint with Affliction we saw earlier. Going to get that Glissa out the way. Beep, beep. Says the rest of the cards that attack for 7. Going to do some chump blocking, but Kyle once again up against the gun as Priest of the Schism. Creature of the Schism added to the mix, and this is new pickup from Lost Caverns that has quickly made its dominant performance here in Standard as Takanuma is going to go ahead and get channeled. That's going to find Rona. We're going to put Rona in play. We have a go for the throat. That's going to do it for the match. Theo, dominant performance over the 4-card Legends on a low mulligan. Tough.
Yeah, that was pretty lopsided. So both matches that we had on camera, both chose Standard, both not the most competitive games we've seen today, but
you promised me competitive games, Joe.
I said in theory that's what's supposed to happen. Anyway,
sure.
All right. So those players will move on to the second of the 3 matches. Theo looking for a win in the next 2 to lock up day 2, along with Matthew Weiss. And then Daniel Weiser looking for got to win 2 in a row. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the schedule before we break here. You can see the upcoming events. February, April, May, and June. Chicago, Minneapolis, Indianapolis, and St. Louis. Pioneer, Modern, we even threw in a Legacy event, as well as the team trios. So if any of these events tickles your fancy, you're interested, make your way out. Build up those points, pick up the showdown victories for auto qualifications for the end of the year championship. Otherwise, the at-large points are available, and really just solid prizes and good times at all the events anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Let's also take a look at the stage 2 structure. We haven't really gone over that in detail yet, I don't think, or well, at least not in the last hour. So this is where we are now. The 8 players that are in this stage, again, 4 advanced straight to Sunday, 4 are out. That leaves 8 playing right now. they'll play up to 3 matches. If you win 2, you advance. If you lose 2, you're out. The only complicated part comes from the seeding, and we're not going to bother explaining that. But that's where we're at. That's what these players are going through. So we've got 2 more rounds left today. Whether they are standard, pioneer, or modern remains to be seen. I'm Joe Lissette, joined by Drake Sasser, representing Nerd Rage Gaming. We'll be right back.